Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. And we'll be looking at a topic we have captioned Recruiting Executives. Our facilitator for tonight, Benedicta Ikpefan, is unavoidably absent, at least as at now. Hopefully she may join us. But you know, we have a never say die spirit, and we believe the party must go on. So I got to know about 5 minutes ago, so I'll be filling in for her all the same. So let's roll together. Now, when we talk about executive, let me just run you through some of the talking points for today, plus more. We look at understanding executive recruitment, looking at how to develop an effective executive recruitment strategy. We look at the executive search process, and then we also look at onboarding and retention of executive. Of course, we also appreciate if people who are on this call share their experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, with respect to hiring executive. Now, you will agree with me that by the word executive, we are referring to a high-ranking professional or personnel, somebody who is technically gifted, somebody who has leadership capabilities, somebody who typically also has extensive experience. So an executive, so to speak, will be someone I will call a sought-after person, someone who is a force to reckon with. For lack of a better word, I will even attempt to say that an executive may be someone that you almost call an institution. So because of this, they are typically scarce. They are typically not many, not plenty. And also, they typically command high costs. Okay, when I say cost now, I mean because their value is high, they are not easy to come by, and you may need to pay a premium to get them. So executive recruitment refers to the process of 1, identifying, okay, 2, attracting, 3, selecting highly qualified individuals to fill executive level positions within an organization. Now, some of these examples could include what we call the C-suite. Okay, C means chief. Okay, C-suite, and it varies from organization to organization, industry to industry. But the most common one, for example, is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO. But it also now expands to roles like Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Chief Human Resource Officer, okay, Chief Technical Officer, okay, and many other roles that operate at the C-level, okay. Again, it may not be just limited to C-level roles. We could also expand it into senior manager or assistant general manager, deputy general manager, those high-ranking roles, okay? Now, you will also realize that in some organizations, the search for senior level C-suite may be outsourced, and for many reasons. For example, it may be outsourced because you want to head on for the role. It may be outsourced in some instances because you also want to maintain some level of confidentiality, some level of rigor, and you also want to, as much as possible, eliminate bias. I know that all of us on this call have had the privilege to recruit for one role or the other before. And when you, for example, send out an open invitation for candidates to indicate their interest and apply for a role, you can get 1,000 CVs, 2,000 CVs. Just 4 weeks ago, on behalf of a friend, okay, I advertised on my LinkedIn profile for a managing director the salary for that organization and that role was 1.2 million. In the space of 5 days, we had about 600 CVs. Of course, not surprising, 3/4 of those CVs did not in any way mirror or match the job description at the minimum. Senior level roles, C-level roles are critical because these are roles you cannot afford to leave unfilled for long. You know, there are certain job roles, certain vacancies that if they are vacant, you can cope for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. But for a C-level role, for an executive role, every day that role is vacant is literally causing the organization loss of money, loss of expansion, loss of innovation, loss of growth, and so on and so forth. And that is why in many organizations, when you look at executive roles like this, what you get is that the notice period for the incumbent is typically 3 months. In some organizations, 2 months. Very few organizations, 1 month. Why? Organizations recognize and realize that if you let this caliber of professionals exit so easily with giving a short notice period, you may not be able to replace them quickly, because chances are the people you want to recruit as a replacement will also need to give 3 months or pay a hefty amount of money to buy themselves out of their existing contracts. Are we together? So, understanding executive recruitment, we realize that it is crucial, it is critical, because you are looking at top-tier executives who can lead the organization to thrive in a what? Competitive business landscape. Now, I also say this quickly, that for some of us here who have had the opportunity to recruit people at executive level, you will almost quickly come to a realization that it's a niche market, except when you are looking out of the industry or out of the traditional sector or territory. Almost all the candidates you'll be talking to, they will know each other. In fact, chances are, by the time you call Mr. A and you speak with Mrs. B, the candidates will probably start talking to each other, that so-so company or so-so consulting firm reached out to me. They will begin to have conversations, engagement, and communication. In other words, word will quickly leak out to that niche labor force, that executive labor force. Okay, now, when we talk about executive recruitment, let's quickly look at the executive recruitment and the other hiring process. Let's just take a breather, 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Oluyemi, for that warm section and introduction. Okay, yeah, so as recruiting executive, it's not like the regular other job process we recruit for entry-level roles or cleaner or HRO officers and the like. Executive roles are quite distinct, and they are very important because the particular individual will be recruiting for an organization plays a vital role. And when recruiting for executive, it's a very different process from the regular staff process we do, or the regular role or entry level, mid-level managerial role is quite different. Executive recruitment focuses on filling top level leadership position within an organization. So we are looking at C-suites, like Mr. Oluyemi said. We are looking like CEOs, chief operation officers, chief human resource officers, chief financial officers. while other hiring process typically target positions for lower level staffs, positions like cleaner, positions like customer service, positions like as easy positions as even the driver. But for executive recruitment involves identifying candidates with exclusive experience. So we are talking of 10, 15 years experience in the industry, someone who has over 10 years experience doing a particular job or filling a particular role in a particular sector. We can say for the finance sector or the insurance sector, we are looking at someone someone who has even worked like 7, 10 years as a chief operating officer is one who we'll be looking out for, or someone who has worked as a operating officer with 10 years experience, a track record, certifications, and the likes. While other hiring process may focus more on specific technical skills, for you can want to say you're looking for IT officers, the normal hiring process for that will be a graduate, someone who has graduated with computer science, someone who has a technical skill for ISP, maybe someone who has a certification in Cisco, Campbell, and all. Then when you are recruiting for executive, you focus on someone who is involved in proactive target search and methods. So when searching for or recruiting for executive, you focus on specific requirements. Your focus is quite different because you'll be heading towards um, top people, top officials, people who are more experienced in the industry. And when recruiting for that, your search might likely not be the regular um where you post jobs online and you will get like 50, 20 CVs. So the executive recruitment process are quite different. So when developing an executive recruitment process, there are things you need to look out for, like defining the organization goal. So what is the organization needs? Why do they want to recruit a chief operating officer? Why does the organization want to recruit a CEO, for example, chief executive officer, or a chief human resource officer? You need to first of all begin to understand the organization strategy, the organization goals, the organization challenges, maybe future directions. Okay, why do we need, before a role comes in, there must be a need for it. Before they say, oh, we need executive roles, you perform a thorough analysis of the executive role. So, what's the job description for this person? What are the duties and responsibility do you want this person to do? What are the set goals for the person? Do you want to recruit a chief executive officer? What do you want he or she to be doing? What are his duties? What are his requirements, responsibilities, and what are the skills needed for this role? You need to also identify key competencies for leadership qualities, behavioral traits, essentials for success in the organization. You need to know that when recruiting for what they call it, a chief executive officer, or senior managerial roles or executive roles, there are things you need to factor in. You need to factor in a lot of things. The person you're bringing into the organization, who is he? Can he speak to board of directors? Can he motivate people? Is he a team leader? Does he have good qualities in terms of managing people, in terms of stakeholder management, in terms of board of directors management, in terms of leadership qualities, and all those are things you need to factor into the competency profiling. Then we need to do comprehensive candidate evaluation. This candidate you're bringing in, who is this candidate? You need to check what kind of candidate do you want to bring in. Do you want to bring in someone with 5 years experience? Do you want to bring in someone with 10, 15 years experience? Do you want to bring in someone from just any sector? Or you're looking for, let's say, company XYZ wants to recruit a chief operating officer for their organization. What sector is your company into? If your sector is into media, you'll be looking for someone who has experience in the media sector. Reason being that this individual understand the sector. He can be able, he or she will be able to provide um have future plans, a future understanding of what that industry would look like in the next 5 to 10 years from now, what the gaps and every other aspect relating to that. would be. So it's also key to note that when you're recruiting for each senior or executive role, you need to put all this into consideration and need to factor them into what you need to do. Then you need to be, are they able to engage in stakeholder decision making? So the person you're bringing in, you need to also know that before you bring them in, you need to also speak to stakeholders, speak to board of directors, let them know the plans and all. What does this involve? What are the steps needed to proceed with this and all? So it is very important you carry along stakeholders, you carry along the board of directors in preparations for the new role or in recruiting towards the recruiting process. Then you create a compelling position profile. Now, the Nigerian system, we like a very good position profile. So before you put out a job ad or before you even compile a job description for that, you need to know that develop details for this profile. So what do I need? Preparations of the role, the executive role outlines, what responsibility, what competency are we looking at, what title are we going to give the person when we put out for this job ad? Are we going to call it chief operation officer or global operation manager? What title we be putting into it? What skill do you need this person to have? What requirements, what competencies and all? Then proactive candidate sourcing. Now, when you source for candidates, it's important that you know that there are different ways to get this, but this is not going to be like the regular way where you get to put ads and get candidates. You do this differently because it is a very delicate and important role for the organization. So you can't even afford to bring in just anybody. So the best way to proactively get candidates or source for candidates is by leveraging on your network. So you leverage on your network, your professional network. So you have speak to those in the industry, for those in the media, you can network through them to proactively get candidates or source candidates. You can also get them from industry events like job, where we go for job fairs, company events, social gatherings relating to professional social gatherings. Actually, those are the best place you can proactively source for these candidates. Now, the executive search process, also known as headhunting, it is a specialized recruitment service that focuses on attracting skilled executive talent. So, you want to source for candidates, you want to source for executives for your organization. First of all, you need to define the position required for this. Like I said before, this chief executive position. Why do you need it? You need to define the position. You need to define the job details. You need to define the job description, the skills needed, the requirements, things to focus on. Then you delineating desired candidate attributes. So you need to ask yourself, what attributes do I want this candidate to possess? What leadership skills do I want the chief executive officer to possess? So, do you want somebody that has a high drive? Okay, start by defining the position requirements. So, the position you're recruiting for the executive, what position are you recruiting for? What is the job description? What is the key responsibilities? What are other key factors to consider when putting this position out or putting this job out? The first stage is to search. For the search process involves knowing precisely what an organization is looking for to find the most qualified candidates. And an executive search team must understand the organization missions, goal, and expectation for a leadership role. For this leadership role, now this is two ways. For those in the consulting aspects, for those in the consulting firm or executive search consulting firms, these are factors they look into. Before you give them a mandate to say, oh, I want you to recruit for this role, you need to
spell out what you want from this role. So for in-house HR officer, you also need to also define the position required for this role. You need to delineate desired candidate attributes. So what attributes do you want this candidate to possess? Do you want the candidate to have the best leadership skills? Do you want the candidate to know how to manage stakeholders, board of directors, and the likes? Do you want someone who is good at motivating people? These are things you also put them to attract suited candidates. Executive search is different from recruiting for junior level. I think I've explained this earlier, as it requires persuasion to keep such C-level candidates. Now you need to remember that for C-suite candidates, they are not people that apply for jobs. They are people that actually don't even need the job. So you are the one who need them. You have to search for them. You have to look for ways to look for ways to attract them, look for ways to bring them in, because you can be looking for a chief executive officer or a chief operating officer who is in LG and who is earning over let's say 2.5 million per annum with other benefits attached to it. And you want to coach and bring into the organization, you need to think of something that would attract them. You need to think of something that will pull them in. Then you also have to do assessment and evaluation of candidates, assessment, preparations of raw materials, what do you need to do, then evaluation of the candidates, who are you bringing, and all. Then selection of desired candidates. You can, after putting out your ad and probably even gotten the right talent pool from your database, you will now begin to desire selection for desired candidates. You select the ones you want, you source through their CVs, you would do some CV reviews, screening. You can put out some tests to them if you want to. Now, how and where to source executive candidates? This is actually the most interesting part because they are not easy to come by. You can't find them by putting out the job and expect CVs. You put out the job for chief operating officers. I can bet you will get CVs for someone who has 2 years experience as a cleaner applying for that job. So the first place to use is to use platforms like LinkedIn to post job ads and connect with potential candidates. You can also reach out to your network within and outside of your company for referrals. You can work with executive search firms to outsource the process of finding and vetting qualified candidates. You can also use job fairs and corporate events. When it comes to LinkedIn, I would want to just elaborate more on LinkedIn search. So the fastest way you can actually get executive on LinkedIn is by personalized connections and invites, whereby you search for these people on LinkedIn. You can also use X-ray search. It works very well for me. When I'm looking for executive role for chief. I remember when I had to recruit for chief operating officer for an agricultural firm, I had to use LinkedIn to get a very good candidate for them, and it took a week. I think that was like 4 to 5 days to get this candidate. But I had to go through LinkedIn. I had to search with the job title itself, and there were key things that the client had given to me back then that I had to make use of. There were duties and responsibilities. There were key requirements needed for me to fill that role. So I had to go far. I had to dig into LinkedIn. I was a very rigorous search, but I think LinkedIn is one place you can actually get the best and well qualified candidates. And yes, I think then I was able to give them someone. At the end of the day, the candidate was the one to decide if he wanted the job or not. So you can actually get them on LinkedIn. You can actually use referrals. So if you're in the media industry, if you're in the hospitality industry, and you need someone to sit as a chief operating officer or a chief consultant, for example, the best place is to go through LinkedIn. And LinkedIn works differently. You can be searching for chief operating officer and you're not getting anything. You're not getting a very qualified candidate. You can also do it by industry to industry. It works perfectly well. So if you're in media industry, you can begin to list out companies in the media industry, top key competitors, or top people in the industry, or you can do 10 best companies on the industry, the internet. you search for these companies, then you take them down to LinkedIn and you begin to source one after the other. It's actually been the most effective way that has worked for me when sourcing for executive roles or even mid-level or junior managerial roles. It has worked for me. Then you need to hire an executive recruiter to work full-time at your organization. So when you're recruiting, let's say you don't want to use a executive recruitment firm, you can actually employ an executive recruiter to work in your organization, someone who specializes in recruiting executives. So those ones, they already know what they're supposed to do. They know where they can get the right candidates for the job. They know how to source. They might even have a talent pool or a database of top executive officers in their database. So it is also important to know that you can leverage on referrals too when recruiting. Yes, you can use referrals. You can talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, talk to top HR officers in the industry. So that would also help. Then onboarding and retention of executives. So after the whole process of recruiting, after putting out the job, advertising, you've gotten CVs or you've gotten good referrals, you conduct your interview. Most companies do about 3 to 4 stages. Some people do a written test. Some even do like a presentation deck, whereas they send a presentation for those in maybe chief marketing officer. You need to know what this person possesses. Apart from the first interview you will do with them and the second interview, you would also need to go ahead to do maybe a presentation deck to know if this person carries the possess the qualities you are looking for, or you know how to do the job. Then afterwards, and you've gotten your candidates, you're ready to bring them on board, you need to do a pre-arrival preparation. So you've given this candidate an offer, you've discussed salary with them, you've negotiated with them, you've talked about salary, compensation and benefits. They will go for what you're giving them. Apart from salary, are you giving them equity bonds and the likes? Are you giving them a car? Other benefit that comes with it. Then you need to do a arrival preparation. So you've given them necessary things needed. They are aware of who and who they are coming to meet in the company. They probably even, this is like the preparations for, or this is where you're coming to meet. And this is mostly done by the HR officer of that firm. So you prepare them for the tasks ahead, what is expected for them, and all. Then you do a welcome orientation to the organization.
And listen, I'll lose my flagship.
The organization, he or she will be resuming to the organization. The HR officer is expected to do a welcome orientation. So the whole team is aware that, you would have sent a memo or a mail to the team to say we're expecting our new chief managing officer or the new chief executive officer will be resuming on so date. So it's supposed to be a welcome and orientation. Then there is also the goal setting and expectation alignment. Yes, during the onboarding process of this, it is important to know that it's important for you to know that you align goals, set goals and expectations. So if you have a KPI for that goal for the person your executive you're recruiting for, it's best for you, the company, the board of directors, the HR manager and people involved in the recruitment process to go above clear goal settings and expectations. So you're expecting you are recruiting a chief executive officer, you're recruiting a chief operation officer, a chief human resource director. You guys need to understand a clear goal. What is this person coming to do? What are our expectations for you? It is good to do this during the onboarding process so that the candidate is aware of, okay, I'm coming to company XYZ and I'm coming to do this, and this. He's aware. He's already preparing his mind. Most candidates that are proactive and smart, they already know this is what I'm being paid to do. They've gone ahead to do their research. They prepared their plans before even coming into the organization. So when you set goals and expectation alignment, it helps the candidates to also prepare their mind and plan for what's to come. Then mentoring and coaching. It is also important that when the person is coming new into the organization, they most times don't know what to expect, especially when you're coming to a new environment. It is important to have to get a mentor, someone to coach them at least during the first 3 months of their stay in the organization. It is important to get that help for them so that the process is smooth and seamless for them. Then you also build relationships. So it is good to the process of doing the onboarding, help them in building relationship, meeting with various board of directors, expanding their meetings, their relations with other people needed for their job to process. Then please, there's another aspect of training and development. Yes, so nobody wants to stay in an organization where he or she will not be trained. So if you want to retain and keep these people, it is important to have a training and development plan for the executive. What trainings are you sending them to? Most companies actually send their executives abroad to study for advanced courses. So you need to, I think this needs to be factored into the retention and onboarding process. So retention steps for executives. So one of this amazing way to keep these people, well, I always tell people, as much as I'm a fan of retention or someone who is concerned about retention, you really can't keep people for long in an organization. And for the fact that recruiting for executive, it's a very crucial and delicate role. We can't even afford to bring in someone who will stay or work with the organization's goal on the long run. So it is important that you create a competitive compensation and benefits. So aside the basic salary, what other things are you giving to them? What packages would you give to them that would attract these candidates and make them stay, or will entice them to feel like, okay, it's not just my salary, there are other packages. We're not talking about HMO, no. Those ones are for entry-level staffs and mid-level staff. So what other packages do you have? We can talk of bonds, we can talk of equity, we can even talk of other packages, learning, and or we can talk of trips. I think most organizations even offer trips for their executives. Then you also need to do career growth and advancement. So it is important that for you to retain an executive in an organization, you know that most of them are coming in from organizations, bigger organizations where they have a car, they have a house, they have almost everything they need. So most times, I think people will jump on executive jobs because of career growth and advancement. So the position you are giving them, what are other takes or other packages that involves them coming aboard, and they begin to think, okay, let's say I'm coming to Glovo, for instance, as the chief marketing officer. What's the career growth for me here? Now, Glovo is a multinational company. That's another thing to factor into that. You begin to sell things or present offers to them that attracts them, then recognition and reward. And I think this is where every Nigerian look forward to. No, you don't want to have a staff in your organization that you don't be recognized or reward. So it is good to also recognize the progress they make, the efforts they put into the organizations, and then work-life balance. Well, nobody wants to work and feel like he has worked all the year, he's suffering from burnout or one issue or the other. So it's also important to encourage your executive to observe a good work-life balance for their work. So it's not just work. It's also work, and there's also time to rest. There's also time to go out. There's also time to stretch and also have fun. Then we'll receive feedbacks and performance management. So I think one thing HR officers and even everyone in the organization needs to know is feedback is very important. So feedback isn't you're not doing well on your job. Feedback is we're going to have a conversation regarding your performance on the job. Or this is where we feel that you've improved. This is where we feel that you need to improve. So if you feel like the chief operation officer you brought in to your company isn't doing as or isn't performing as expected, it's time for feedback. When you're doing performance review after the first quarter, you can have that conversation, review through this goals you've aligned at the beginning. Okay, where are you now? What have you achieved? You've not done this. Are there rooms for betterment? You have that conversation. Then there's executive support and resources. So most organizations don't make provisions for support and resources. So for the organization, most executives, it's good to assign an personal assistant to them, support their job so that they don't feel like, oh, I have too much on my desk and I can't handle them. So you can get support staff for them, get people to assist them doing their job, or best for chief executive officer, You assign a office assistant to them, someone who handles their cleaning, someone who gets their lunch for them. It makes it helps in retaining them. Then opportunities for feedbacks and inputs. I don't know how it is for most organizations, but where I work, there's that opportunity for feedback and input where every staff of an organization wants to feel important when there is room for feedback and input into the organization. So if they are recruiting a chief operating officer, definitely he would have ideas and inputs he wants to contribute to the organization growth and development. So it's important for senior management staff to also give ears to that and also take whatever feedbacks and inputs they do. I know most ideas might not be implemented immediately, but that sake of, oh, you said something nice, you've heard them, and even if you might not take it all, let them feel that okay, I'm new here, but whatever suggestions I bring stays. Because when people begin to feel, I've heard some of my candidates in the past that I've had to recruit for senior managerial will complain about their own organization and they say, I bring ideas, and nobody is moving. I don't think I want to stay in a place that my ideas are not, they don't listen to me, they don't want to grow their whole style, they still live in the 21st century. In the old days, they don't want to move to 21st century. 21st century. So when you start getting feedbacks like that, you need to have it about in your mind that that executive will leave at any time. He will leave. So the best way to keep them is to give listening ears to their inputs and feedbacks. Then continuous learning and development. Learning is something that happens daily. So HR officers, HR managers, executive, it's important to create learning seminars. It's important to create learning programs for improvement for your executives. Okay, so we've got into the question and answer section. So I don't know if anyone has questions for me. Is there anything you would like to know regarding recruiting executive? Does anyone have questions for me?
Please, let's raise our hands if you have questions so that we can allow us to ask the question. If you have questions for Gift, please raise your hands so that you can unmute and speak.
Questions for me? Okay, please, can you ask your questions?
Adekunle?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And it's been quite insightful to learn from you. Yeah, you've actually said a lot about similar things that I do, and but I'm asking. I would like to ask this question because I work with a recruitment consulting firm, a management consulting firm actually, and I deduce that all what you said focused more on internal recruitment done by employees. So what would you ask that we the recruiters, we're working with us consulting firms? What would you say we should do if we are dealing with a client who is quite reluctant to give us deep insight about a C-suite role? I'll give an example. Currently, I'm sourcing for a managing director for a microfinance bank, and despite asking questions just to get deep insight into what I should source for, I've met a concrete wall where I was just giving sparse information. So what would you say that we need to do, or what do you think needs to be done differently in order to fill in these gaps that were not provided to us?
Thank you. Adekunle for that question. Well, most times for consultants, it's a bit stressful because most clients can be very amazing. Let me use that word. Then they find it difficult to give consultants the required information to perform that job for them. But my advice would be do a deep research. You can still send requirements to the HR officer. Then the position you're filling for that microfinance bank. Do you know who was in that position? What I do most times is when a client don't give me detailed information, I go back to the company, I search the company, I look out for who was there. I think I'm very good at when it comes to scouting the internet. I feel people can actually find anything you want on the internet. If you're a good CIA, you can actually dig into the life of that person that was in that seat. Just go through his LinkedIn profile, check and all. Then the company you are recruiting for, the best way to give such clients is industry to industry. So if you've sent a batch of CV or 2 batches and they are not impressed with that, you can go down to asking yourself, what sector is this? Now, search for top microfinance bank in the industry, begin to fish out from there. Then you can also go ahead to poach people from those companies and give to them. And one of the biggest things is to give them their competitors. So most times they're not really looking for anything specific. Most times those clients just want somebody in their competitor. Someone they know they see, for instance, you are recruiting for let's say asset management firm, and we have the likes of Greenwich Trust Limited, we have the likes of Main One. You're looking for most of these top ones, like we have Carry Assets. The best way to get for candidates that will fill those roles are to give them from their competitors. So they are not necessarily giving you the best information, but you know that you're filling for a chief marketing officer. For you to fill that role effectively, you have to give them someone who understands, or someone who they won't have to babysit, someone who they won't have to speak much, someone who's just going to come on board and hit the ground running. So pick from their competitors. I hope I've answered your question.
Please raise your hands if you have any questions or contributions, or you want to share your experience with respect to hiring executives. Please, let's do this quickly. We still have some few minutes more. Ladies and gentlemen, share your experience. Please raise your hands. We can unmute you. I will ask one more time, and we call it a wrap if we don't see any hands up for either questions or contributions. Okay, I think I can see a hand up now. Beth Jade. Okay. Beth, you can speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Gift. Thank you. Thank you very much for this session. I just want to add something. So you talked about doing headhunting on LinkedIn. So it's different. You ask different. Can you hear me?
Beth, I can hear you. Go ahead, Beth.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Comes to head hunting, the questions you ask this candidate are totally different from when they are sending their CVs or when you put up an ad and they are applying for the jobs. So when you're doing head hunting, the questions you ask this person is the talent is totally different from the questions you're going to ask somebody that is applying for a role. So I just wanted to put that out because you are the one, it's more like you are trying to buy them from where they are working. So it's more like you are going to pitch your company to them and see, appreciate the fact that they've grown in their career and see if they would like to, if they're open to switching, jumping ship, if I should use the word. So the questions you ask them is totally different from when they are requesting for the role. So you are the one wanting them into your team. Thank you.
For that. Yes, thank you. Well, for most people, you need to know that when you are recruiting for this role, you are literally begging this candidate to come on board. So for most consulting firms, that's what most people will tell you. But this candidate will tell you, I mean, my company, I remember when I was looking for chief financial officer, chief finance officer, and I spoke to someone in my church, and because I know he's currently the chief financial officer of their firm, and he told me, what offers do you have for me? And what he was more focused on the offer because he's someone that knows his onions and he has certifications in his field. So you can't even be interviewing this.
Hello, Gift. Can we still hear Gift? Hello, Gift, are you still there? Okay, I think it's our network that is acting funny. Oh, okay. I just wanted
expectations of the clients.
She's back.
So,
okay,
do
good.
you have any other question for me?
Or
Or any
contribution
contribution?
or experience sharing. Okay, Ibukun. I think I can see a hand up.
Yes,
Okay, please unmute and speak.
Good evening, Gift. Thank you so much for this section. So please, I lost you when you were answering the last question, and I'm really interested in it because I've actually had a similar experience as well. I was recruiting for a managerial role, and the person was literally asking me like, why should I leave my company to join your company? Though I was later successful in hiring the person, but we had to go like way above our budget. So I don't know if there's a kind of a way of a tested way of recruiting managerial talents while staying in the budgets, like how to make your company stand out, especially when the company is a startup. Like we don't really have that competitive advantage of the salary. So is there anything we can actually leverage on to attract seniors into our company, like top talents into our company? Thank you.
Hello, Gift, please respond. Gift, did you hear the question? Okay, hold your thoughts. Let's take Mr. Morakinyo Oloyede. You can unmute and make your comment.
Okay, sir. Yes, I heard the question. Well, in today's economy, it's not going to be that easy, but it's actually easy. So most times,
I can't hear Gift again. I think our network. Mr. Morakinyo, please. You can unmute, sir. I made you co-host, sir. You can unmute, sir.
Organizations will have to. Not all candidates will want to jump at that. Not all candidates will want to jump at that. But there are some things you can actually do for your company. You can leverage on stock bonds and other benefits, something to just attract those candidates to come on board, or it could even be learning and development. I don't think anyone will want to jump or reject an offer that comes with a good learning system. Now, you also need to also check the candidate. Another way for you to do that is to be smart to say, what is candidate lacking? So if you've interacted with this candidate so well, you might be able to tell one or two that you could use your own advantage to your company that will stand out. Then your company also needs to also look into their budget too. You need to review budget because the economy is not what it used to be, but it is still possible to get the right candidates. It will take you a while. Some candidates might even start demanding for some relevant things at that point. Because I remember when I had to recruit chief operating officer, we got the candidates. I think he was asking for 3.5 M per annum, and he was asking that we relocate his family, or we still have to negotiate with the candidate. They had to see something reasonable, and eventually the candidate agreed. Then came back to say it wasn't okay. We see he was going to decline for issues that happened with his family, that he had to go back, but we're able to negotiate with that candidate. So it all comes to your negotiation skills as a HR officer. So sit with the candidate, negotiate, let the candidate that he's been off or he performed well during the interview and all, but negotiate for something fair in between and give a very good professional benefits to them. And I think the candidate will take it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any other contributions, comments, or you want to respond to any of the earlier questions? I don't know if Dr. Morakinyo is still on the call. I think there are some questions. Okay, all right. Somebody responds here that their question has been answered. Okay, all right. So there are different things, just to wrap up from my end here. When you are trying to hire an executive or a senior person, you need to do some due diligence, some investigations, like Gift mentioned. CIA means you need to check what are the things they are happy with, what are the kind of perks and benefits they are getting where they are currently, what is going on well, and then if you check well. Okay, over to you, Dr. Morakinyo. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, good evening, and well done, Facilitator. I just want to say one or two things about executive selection, so to speak. The first thing I want to mention is that if you want to have the best, the company also has to brace up in terms of remuneration package. And many a time, it's not all about salary, because there are other perks that come with these positions. And what I would advise recruiters do, so that you can advise your client well, is that you try to do search for people in the industry and that role, and in terms of their compensation package, and let your client, the company recruiting, know this and this. So if you are aware, and when you do a stable, and also which position are they among the competitors in that type of industry? Are they the high flying or in the middle or in the low cadre? And now what are they paying at that level for the executives? The moment you have that and they really want to stay afloat, and it will guide better, other than continuing to research and people are refusing because of the fact that the budget is not working. So if you have done your homework and advise your client as it were, you will know before you even start the exercise how far you can go with the figure and all that as perks attached to the compensation. That is the advice I want to give in that area. The other area is that it depends, because you've spoken much of maybe executive and the maybe level of some companies that are involved. If we are talking about high-end companies, some of these people, they will not respond to adverts. Poaching and hunting, having to visit them in some climes other than the former setting is what helps in recruiting them. For example, you can join them in the club. You want to make findings and find out who is a member of so and so club and those and so, and you have to take it to them, because many of them are also comfortable where they are and they're not looking for a job. But if you're able to have your unique selling point concerning the company that you're recruiting for, you take it to them and they're, oh, this is good. And because you meet them at the comfortable environment, they want to talk to you. So many more. I just see, I think, thought of adding one or two add my voice to what you have said so far. Thank you and well done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morakinyo Oloyede, for sharing with us. So I just wrap up. I don't know, Gift, do you still have anything to say before I wrap up? Gift, our facilitator for tonight. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please go
Okay,
ahead.
so for the person who asked that question regarding the salary, now, for instance, if you are recruiting for a chief financial officer, and you have a candidate who has, let's say, 7 years experience, and he's a good fit. Now, another thing you can leverage on his job title. Most Nigerians like job title a lot, so you can also leverage on that. A little tweak in the job title, and the candidates might find that very enticing. So, currently, I'm head of the finance in my company. Head of finance is not compared to chief marketing officer. So when I had to recruit for global marketing officer, I had a candidate who was a marketing manager. He jumped at the offer because it was a global marketing officer role. The title was big. Even though the money wasn't big, he could still consider. Work mood also is another thing to factor into. So nobody wants to do full-time, hybrid, or even remote. So that for hybrid, it will be good. For that, we need to consider some other things to encourage them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gift.
Thank you, Mr. Oluyemi.
For those additional insights. All right. So I'll wrap up right now since I started the conversation. Wrap up. When you are trying to add on, among other things, make sure you focus on the opportunity. Okay. What are the unique selling points? Do you have, in addition to the salary, do you have, for example, bonuses? Okay. Do you have incentives? Do you have things like commission? Do you have flexible work arrangements, additional vacation or holiday days? These are very important. Also, if you do some research, you may have a better company culture setting, and you may also want to sell that to the candidate. These are things that are very important. I remember back in the days when these fintechs, okay, started coming up, one of the things some of these fintechs did to attract senior executive is what we call stock option. In other words, a certain portion of the shares of the organization, it can be as small as 1%, 2%, 0.5%, they will allocate it to all the CEOs. So if you are joining the organization, you automatically become a shareholder. Then how they do this stock option is that they will tell you, so you may get something immediately you join. Every month you stay, you will now be getting additional stock. So if you stay maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it will be vesting as you stay with the organization. Now, some people like money, but some people also know that if you join, so to speak, a startup, and you are privileged that the organization succeed, by the time they get maybe additional funding or they are going to the stock market and the likes, you can really cash out, okay? So we need to be creative around this. I also, just by way of caution or advice to recruiters, as much as possible, esteemed colleagues, as we are selling our clients to potential candidates, please, let's give the candidates the full picture, okay? Let's give them, yes, I know you just want to highlight all the beautiful things, but if you know one or two things, be realistic, be balanced. One of the things we need to do as recruiters is that we want to reduce the element of shock between the information we give the candidate and the reality they meet on ground. So be balanced. It's almost like a SWOT analysis, the strengths and the weakness, the opportunities and the threats. Now, some recruiters will say, oh, if you tell them one or two, so to speak, not two good things, they won't take the job. No, people know that there's no perfect place, but you don't want to lure or deceive people, okay? Especially if they are coming from blue chip organizations, they are coming from tier 1 organization. Give them the full picture so that they are making an informed decision. Don't forget that as a recruiter, when you are dealing with executive, you are not just trying to satisfy the need of your clients or your organization, you're also building a relationship with them. Because in future, or soonest, when you have other similar roles to fill, these candidates that you have hired before will be in a good position to make referrals and recommendations of their friends or colleagues to you, and you'll be able to fill this role very, very quickly. Ultimately, our desire is that those of us on this call right now and listening, watching this video that are yet to become executives in our own right will also mature quickly into executive roles so that they will be headhunting us. I'd like to thank you once again, Gift, for joining tonight. Thank you for volunteering. God bless you. Thank you, everyone that joined. As always, this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel in the next few hours. Thank you and have a productive week, everyone. Good night.
Nice.